Well, thank you for joining me for this, Mr. Takis. Not the chips. But
I've been called that all the time.
Yeah, that one I'm not surprised about.
That one, most people are like hot Takis or whatever, and they're like
spicy Taki chips.
Cheetos and Takis, yeah.
So please tell us who you are.
I am, I guess, Corporal Kazumasu Takikawa. Takikawa being my last name, so people just know me as Takikawa.
No,
whatever. So Kawasaki, Kamikaze, what you know.
I was going to ask you, did you ever get mad at me when I would yell like Kawasaki, Yokohama, get in here?
Dude, I'm from Oklahoma and Georgia, so I hang out with the rednecks.
Yeah,
all the time, and so like my name, it's just something that a lot of people have never experienced before they meet me, and then they meet me, and then they're very confused by me and my name. So I'm half Japanese. I mean,
because you're half Japanese, but you very clearly look like a white dude. Like I wouldn't say there's a lot about you that screams Japanese guy.
I am a white dude. Being, I mean, my dad is really I don't know. It's just funny just because my dad's from Japan, but that doesn't mean I'm very Japanese at all, Yeah. But growing up in Georgia, and then my dad not being home a lot when I was younger, I just grew up with white people. Yeah. I guess that's what it is. It's just funny.
Just didn't get a lot of the Japanese culture and stuff as you were growing up?
I got some of it, but not a lot of, I didn't, I guess, take it in, and I didn't get the Japanese way of thinking, we'll say. Yeah. So, yeah. And it's interesting. Something was just pointed out to me is I was talking to a Korean guy in my unit. He was like, "You're the only Japanese person I've ever met in the U.S. military."
Really?
Yeah. Well, okay. Like white. No, he said I was the only one he has ever met. I have met one other half Japanese person. Yeah. And been in for a long time now. So
I can't say I knew many. I did meet a couple of Japanese people in my time there. But you're like the first half, or the only, I would say half a Caucasian, half Japanese.
You can say whatever you want.
I'm trying to think of like the best way to put it, because I mean, I guess you could say like half American, but that's cultural. That's not just ethnicity. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Well, technically, it'd be half European because all the white people here are technically European.
Argue semantics about whatever this, that, and whatever. I'm no expert.
I have no idea.
So your dad was real busy when?
So yeah, my dad was actually. It's kind of funny because my dad was actually. He immigrated to the United States way back when, I think in 1970, but he's been here ever since. But he used to have an FFL to import weapons from other countries. So he used to travel a lot and go buy guns. So he's been to Europe buying guns, bringing them back, importing them. So my dad was like an international arms dealer. So nothing like Lord of War. It was nothing like that. But yeah, that's what he used to do. So when I was younger, that's what he was off doing, buying militaria, like old military stuff. And he actually, there was an article where he bought 2 APCs, armored personnel carriers, and then he imported them to the U.S. And then the only way for the guy to get it home, the guy he sold it to, he had to drive through town, in a small town in Oklahoma. And it made the front page.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So this guy driving a amphibious, 6-wheel drive vehicle through downtown, going home. I don't know why he needed it, but it was Oklahoma.
I was going to ask you that, like, if he sell like as for a company or private dealers, or
it was just him and like a business partner. Yeah. And his business partner, this is a funny story. So his business partner, his name is Pierre.
Okay.
It was Pierre. He died recently, but he was a Frenchman. So it was my dad, terrible Japanese accent, and a Frenchman with a very thick French accent, both speaking in English, their second languages. And then so you meet these two, if you had no idea, it was the funniest thing to hear when they'd call each other on the phone, because my dad would say like bonjour, and then Pierre would go moshi mosh, which, like how they answer the phone. Mm-hmm. And so hearing those conversations, I don't know how they understood each other, but it was a good time. It was a really funny time. But now my dad, he's retired and does all that. He's just around the house. My mom's about ready to kill him, the usual.
Yeah. You get around too much. Need to find something to occupy his time.
Yeah. He's just an old Japanese man.
Yeah.
It cracks me up.
Well, since we're on the subject of your dad, can you relay the story of your dad hunting a bear with a sword?
Everybody remembers that one. I actually have the picture. I don't know if you ever saw the picture of it.
I don't think I did. If you would send it to me.
Yeah. So I don't know how it all came together, but my dad was in California, and I guess he probably came up with this idea to be a man and go hunting for a bear. And so he and a group of guys, I think he had a guide, loaded up on horseback. My dad still has his Stetson that he wore. He wore a cowboy hat out there. And they went out. They found a bear. It was up in a tree. So my dad climbed the tree and stabbed a bear with a sword. And there's pictures of him, doing the regular grip and grin where he hold up the head.
Yeah.
And he had the sword there and everything. And my dad just somehow came up with the idea to do it. So I don't know.
Like the rite of passage, like the American thing to do is hunt, but I'm going to do it with a Japanese twist, and I'm going to go out and hunt me a bear with a sword.
So the joke was for a little while with me and my friends is now I got to do it with a knife. And I don't know. I will have to see, or maybe I should go real American and then go after it with some type of large caliber weapon or an explosive or something. I don't know. A grenade. Yeah. Just go.
You can't just do it with a grenade, though. You have to get close enough to get the bear to eat the grenade, and then
shove it in there. Just
That's wild.
So that's my dad.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up in America, being half Japanese and? So,
I don't know. So I was homeschooled actually. Mm-hmm. I was homeschooled up until college, which actually happened after I joined the military. So I was homeschooled my entire life. So I was in a small bubble of just people that were also homeschoolers and my church and stuff like that. So I was always in a welcoming community. So I never really saw any, this whole thing with Asian hate. I never saw.
I wasn't necessarily.
No. But it was just a normal, as far as I know.
You didn't feel like your experience stood out in any way?
No.
I'm not sure it was made easier by you just being a white dude.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah. Well, when I was really little, I looked like a little Asian kid, which was hilarious, and then that went away very quickly. So, but other than that, it was.
Well, I was more curious about, like say culturally, with your dad having immigrated so long ago and him being so, for what you've told me in the past, so staunchly like Japanese culture.
He's very
traditional.
Yeah. He is the stereotype.
Yeah.
He's black belt in 3 different martial arts. He's got a master's degree in mathematics.
Yeah.
He's a horrible, horrible driver. He is so bad. And growing up with that, but I don't know. I think I became my own person before I really started getting to know my dad. Mm-hmm. Because when him being Japanese, they the father figures don't really have a lot to do with the children in their younger years.
Okay.
They're more of an authority figure instead of a nurturing, kind of in the United States, it's more of they're a big part, fathers are a bigger part of the children's lives. And I think in Japan, they're just the provider and authority figure. Mm-hmm. And then here in the United States, you as a kid, you see more of the personality of the dad. But I don't know of that for sure, but that's kind of how he was raised, because his father was, I don't know if you knew this, but my Japanese grandfather was actually in World War II flying Zeros against the United States.
I feel like I remember you saying something about that, but
so his dad was was in the Royal Imperial Navy of Japan in the Pacific and fighting against the Marines and the Navy. And so his dad was a warrior, type thing. And so I think when he was younger, he didn't get that much attention from his father. And so that's something that may have just gotten passed down through his upbringing to my upbringing.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know.
Well, what is it? It's like the average workday over in Japan is some insane, like 14 plus hour kind of thing.
It could be. So my dad, me growing up, schooling was the most important thing to my dad for me. And then because he thought you would never make it if you didn't finish school.
Yeah.
And I can see that to a certain extent, but then he got me. And I was homeschooled, and then being homeschooled, you don't really get any opportunities. At that point, you didn't have any opportunities to go to college and all these other things. There were some, but
since like you weren't in a high school and not involved in sports, or the pool of potential things was smaller.
The big thing was didn't have a real diploma. And so
really?
Trying to get into college was a little bit more difficult, but also there were things that were starting back then when I was high school age that actually have come a lot farther now. So I was in some of the first little things of it, but homeschooling has become a lot more accepted.
Yeah.
We actually had a football program, so I played football from 14 to 18 years old. That started right around 2004, I guess, and it became bigger and bigger after I got out. And now kids that are homeschooled have the ability just to go straight from homeschooling to college. I think it's more standardized. But actually, if you're a homeschooler, you actually weren't able to join the military without going and getting your GED or anything like that.
Because they didn't recognize you didn't have a high school diploma
or
equivalent.
Yeah, so I actually, the way I joined, there was a program at the time called the Army Preparatory School, which was pretty cool. It was on Fort Jackson in South Carolina. I think it's called Liberty now.
We had talked about that with someone else. They changed all the name. I haven't really been paying attention to Army news. So
anyway, it's in Fort Jackson, and you get there. You go through. You get like a couple of uniforms, and then they send you to APS, Army Preparatory School, and from there they actually have this little school. You go get your GED through there, and while you're there, it actually is really cool what they did. They actually had some E5s and some E6s they weren't drill sergeants, but they were treating you like drill sergeants, like they were drill sergeants. And we actually learned how to march. We learned how to form up. We learned all the positions of attention and all this other, we did PT out there. So we learned all that stuff. And if you got in there and you passed everything first time go, you're only there for 3 weeks. Some people are there for months trying to get their GED.
Yeah.
But it was a really good intro into the military with having no prior knowledge of any of it. And then from there, you go straight into basic training. And that's what happened to me is we get in there. You go to what's the reception? That's
gotcha.
Yeah. You get to reception. They pull you from reception. Go to APS. You get done with APS once you get your GED, and then you're good to go into basic training. And so I ended up spending just 3 weeks there, and I passed everything first time. And then get sent right to basic training from there. You get loaded on a bus. You can't look anywhere. You're just like face down, and then normal from then on out. But
that's I had no idea. I didn't even realize that you had gone through all that.
Yeah, it was a good program, but they got rid of it. So yeah, of course.
Well, why get rid? It sounds like that's a good thing for homeschool kids and stuff like that.
Yep.
No funding. You got to go buy more jets.
There really wasn't that many of us there.
I was just wondering that, like, if they just didn't have enough people to actually justify sending them through the school.
There was 20 or 30 people, at different stages of the preparatory school. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing probably in a year, there's probably a few hundred that went through there. But there's evidently 2 locations. I don't know about the other spot because I was never there, but it was a good program. But of course, Army.
So why were you homeschooled in the first place?
My mom. I don't know exactly why. I think my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, and then I think she just didn't want us getting exposed to. She was kind of protective and didn't want us to get exposed to all this craziness and of the world, and I think she just wanted us to be safe. I guess I don't know, but you can only do that for so long, and of course, as you can tell, it didn't really help. No, it was good, but I honestly don't really know what her thought process was on it.
Well, and it makes me wonder, like you say, the contrast with your dad. Schooling's so important. Yep. And I know schooling is like in Japan is like totally different.
The thing.
So it's just kind of interesting, like from your dad's perspective, of how important school is to you. I don't want to say not going to real school because I think you can get.
I didn't go.
No, but it's not that. I know other people who have been homeschooled and stuff, and it's like they're plenty intelligent people and they got a good education and I didn't even realize because I've known a lot of people who I've met that have been homeschooled for like earlier grades and then eventually go to high school. Yeah. And, some parents want to we want them to integrate a little bit, learn social skills and stuff. But I didn't realize a lot of that might have also been if you don't go to high school, you don't get a diploma. Yeah. So I just didn't even know that.
We got a diploma, but it wasn't
one that places recognize kind of thing. Yeah. So, that's like I said, I had no idea.
It was just a weird, I don't know. Homeschooling's weird. And now it's a lot easier to do because there's a lot of programs for it. But,
so is that what led you into the military in general, or
no? I don't know. I've always so I'm a gun nut. I love guns. I've grown up with guns. Like my dad being, he's always had guns and swords and all sorts of stuff around the house.
Yeah, your mom talking about you guys want to be safe, but I bet your house was filled with all kinds of crazy stuff sometimes.
So we, growing up, you always hear this from like old timers. There was guns everywhere. We just knew not to touch them, and that was true. There was a spot in my old house in Oklahoma, and it had one of those yellow plastic chains, and that was the only thing blocking off this area. But there was like piles of swords in there, like no joke, piles of swords. There was guns. There was antique like matchlocks and flintlocks back there. There was all sorts of stuff back there, and I think I only went back there one time. The entire time we lived in that house for 9 years. Yeah. I only went back there one time, and it was with my dad. And there was just, guns were just part of life. So.
Well, there's something to be said about, because I've always argued that those who are afraid of guns should educate themselves about, because so many people just don't know the reality, and it's not that guns aren't dangerous, because they obviously can be, but the people who use them responsibly and know what they're doing with them, it's like there are some people that are like, oh, the gun's just laying around, it's just going to go off. like, like on most modern firearms, it's virtually impossible for it to just go off.
It's like a fuse. You light it, and just as soon as you load it, it's lit.
Yeah, like so many firearms, there are so many steps they have to go through before that round can exit that chamber, and a lot of it's just born of ignorance and unknown, people. And so it's one of those where it's like, I'm not saying you can't be scared of guns, but if you know nothing about it, maybe you might be. Yeah, the internet exists, man. So yeah, I mean, growing and raising children to be responsible and like know, like, hey, don't touch this thing unless mommy and daddy are around, and we can show you how to do it and what to do.
I was having to move a bunch of the guns that I have, and my daughter was trying to help me. She's like, I help. And she came up, and I'm sitting there like guns in both hands. I have, a gun that's unloaded. There's nothing in it. I'm just like, here you go. And I got this picture. And I was like, I should delete it because it's a little girl, completely safe. There's nothing could go wrong. But she's holding like an AK, like an AKM. I'm just like, that could be perceived as something really bad.
Yeah, you get a lot of people on Twitter mad.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody see that one.
And then you get the support from the people on the other side.
Yeah,
all right, you're a little extra.
You're a little bit much, but yeah. So anyway, going back to, I just wanted to do something.
Wanted to blow stuff up.
Wanted to do something with my life, I guess. But this was like 17, 18-year-old me.
Yeah,
and. Just thinking joining the military is something cool. And so I did. And my mom said, she was all on board with it. She was like, I figured you'd do something like that. Yeah. Interesting. Right?
Yeah, that's another one of those, like, you can't go to public school, but go ahead.
Go ahead. And then she talked me into joining the reserves, of course, because I could go to college, because that also went with
there are other benefits.
Yeah. So. And so my mom was also in the line of thinking that I needed to finish my education. Spoiler alert, I didn't. So I joined, and my dad was on board with it somewhat. I don't know. He kind of stoic, doesn't really, didn't really talk much. I talk to him a lot more now because I'm an adult. And so that was really it. I just wanted to serve my country, that type of thing. I wanted to do something more, and I did. And it felt like I was in basic training and all that stuff. And then you get to my unit, which was the 1188, way back then. But it was just boring. I feel like we weren't doing anything.
I mean, there was an awful lot of not doing anything that happened.
Well, I mean, at that unit, units change, I would say, on average, probably 2 years.
Yeah.
When the commanders change and all this other stuff. But when I was there, we were a transportation unit with no vehicles. So, like, we had no piece of equipment, and we couldn't even train on anything except for PowerPoints.
Yeah.
I remember that all the time. And then our ATs were boring. And I don't know. You were, let's see, were we? No, we were that was the unit you were in with. Yeah. And so yeah, we then I kind of just got bored with it for a while there, and I didn't know if I wanted to stay in. But that was the first part.
Well, if you don't mind if we back up just a little bit first.
Yeah.
I was curious. One, your dad, your grandfather, was part of the Japanese military, and then you joined the American military. There was your dad. Did he have anything to say about, any kind of idea about that, or?
I think he kind of knew, like, being from Oklahoma, being, from the heart of the USA, me growing up around there with all those types of people, like blue collar guys. I don't think he really thought anything of it, like being bad that I wasn't very patriotic towards Japan.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was actually a dual citizen with Japan.
Were you born in Japan? Or were you
no,
born
I was born in Oklahoma. So, but at the same time, like, I think he kind of figured it was kind of like a duty thing because Japanese, super, honorable, that type of stuff. But
it's just an interesting dynamic because he moved here and he lived here for a long, he still lives here, so he's lived here for a long time. So it's
50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he removed himself a little bit from Japan, but it's still very traditional Japanese.
Yeah.
Grandfather fought
against.
Yeah. And then you served for us. So, I mean, it's good that there wasn't anything, but I could totally understand where there might have been the potential for.
Well, he also, but at the same time, he came to the United States and married a white woman. So, I think if there had been any animosity towards the United States, like, it was probably dealt with back then.
Yeah.
So
maybe he moved here to make his dad mad.
It could have been. Yeah, I'm going to go over there and get a white woman and become an American. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's still got a green card, which is hilarious to me. So,
yeah.
My dad, the immigrant. So that's always funny when people start talking about immigration nowadays, and they're like, "You have nothing to stand on, on this." I'm like, well, actually,
let me tell you about dual citizenship and my father.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad is a legal alien. No. But anyway, I think my grandfather, I don't think he had any issue with it because to them, it was just a job. They were serving their country. They were doing what they were told, and it was just their job. And I don't think there was any real...
Did he join voluntarily?
I don't know. There was a big language barrier. He's dead now, so I never got to talk to him about it. It would have been a really cool, conversation, but not a bit of English whatsoever.
But that would have been really interesting too, because if he didn't want to actually be part of the war or anything, and then...
I'm pretty sure he did because that was just the culture. Mm-hmm. Your country is at war, and the Japanese were also ultra nationalistic. Yeah. So the Nazis were also very, it was nationalism was a huge thing that the Nazis had for them, where they were all for whatever their country was doing. And the same thing with Japan is that it was very patriotic to do your duty for the country. And so I think that gets misconstrued today with people wanting to do the best for their country now in the United States.
Yeah.
And but back then it was just, that's what you did. You didn't get to see all the sides. You only got to see one side of it. And so I think he did it as his duty to serve the country. But I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm guessing that's probably what it was. But
it could have been like we've spoken before about, like, with your siblings.
Yeah. That
you and your siblings might fight all the time, but if someone else comes in messing with your sibling, it's about the family now.
Yeah.
I wonder. It's interesting to speculate on. Would have been cool if you knew a little bit more.
Yeah, it would have been cool. That would have been really cool if he was like living in the United States and you could have interviewed him. That would have been super cool. That would have been awesome. Yeah, on the other side,
So what was basic like for you?
Honestly, it wasn't bad. I had played football for 4 years. It honestly reminded me of a football camp that just lasted 3 months.
Yeah.
You're learning, you're in classroom environment, you're getting yelled at here and there a lot. But it was just like a football camp. The physical stuff was a little bit difficult for me. I got a waiver to join because I was too heavy, and I got the waiver, got in. I was still one of the bigger guys there. And then, other than that, it was fun. Yeah. Honestly, it was fun.
Where'd you go?
Jackson.
Jackson.
So I went to APS and then left from APS, the preparatory school, and went right back to reception, which was right across the street, which is kind of funny. I went right across the street, and then they figured out where they were putting me with a new incoming class, and then just went down the road wherever. And now I know it's like right down the road. Because, you don't know. I think they drive you around on purpose for a long time. To confuse you? Yeah, a long time. And then they pull up to the place, even though it's like literally around the corner. But
I wouldn't be surprised at all, man, especially drill sergeants trying to make it where you can't.
You can't find your way back.
Yeah, well, they're always trying to like keep you off kilter, like you can never get your bearings kind of thing.
So, that was it was just fun. Got done with there and went up to Fort Eustis.
Yeah.
For AIT.
Were you 88 November or hotel?
Hotel. I'm a hotel.
So you were the cargo.
Yeah, specialist. Yeah. Cargo specialist. Forklift driver. Glorified forklift driver.
Well, you got to drive the T-Rex thing. Yeah. The wretches.
Yeah. I've been able to drive all those things since. Just a couple times, but mostly we just drive the 10K forklifts, like the rough terrain forklifts. Those are my favorite thing to drive, but we get to drive those about once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. And maybe around the parking lot of the motor pool.
Yeah.
But yeah. But
so you went from Eustis then?
Yeah.
To
home. Because I went home. That was fun. Coming home, being a soldier now, got my dog tags, wearing the dog tags all the time, and trying to use my military ID to get discounts. And no,
I'm 19 and feeling some kind of way.
Yeah, and then started going to college right after that, and it was pretty fun. Coming back, I worked real hard that first semester, realized I didn't have to work that hard. So after that first semester, my grades kind of went downhill. And then I kept going to school for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And got like 90-something college credit hours, changed my major, the usual, and then just stopped going.
So I'm just not coming back.
Yeah, it ended up being just a waste of time for me. College is not for everybody.
Yeah.
And I guess it wasn't a waste of time. I learned a lot of stuff, met a lot of cool people, but I think it kind of stalled my career or my work, and it was fun. Like I said, met some cool people, had some good times.
Do you think maybe you could have benefited more had you gone to like a vocational 8-week thing and then went to work kind of idea?
I think if I would have gone to a tech school and gotten a trade school, I think that's way more applicable to most people's lives and the jobs that are actually out there.
Yeah.
Especially at that time. That's when it really started. Most of the guys that were in the trades are all starting to retire at that time. And then it's even worse now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that hindsight is 20/20.
Well, it's one of those things where culturally here in America, you look back at media and TV and stuff in the 90s and early 2000s and how like everything pushes all the kids in every sitcom have got to go to college, and they all go there and they graduate and become lawyers and doctors and this, that, whatever. And it's obviously that is a path.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, it's not wrong to come to the realization, like it's okay to be an electrician.
Yeah.
And
I know some electricians, some guys that drive like skid steers and excavators. They make a lot of money, and then sometimes they own their own business.
Yeah.
And they make a lot of money, and didn't go to college at all. Their wives are stay-at-home moms, and they got like 4 kids, and they're able to go out and buy boats and do all that other stuff.
It's just a difference in lifestyle. I mean, it's you know, a difference in what, because certain people's skill sets. Like me, I tried college for a little bit, and I gave up on it.
College is stupid.
Well, I was more of like, I never really liked being in school. I like to learn, but I just never really liked being in school.
Yeah.
So I tried it, and I went, and after like half a semester, I was like, I don't like doing this, and so I stopped going.
Well,
and then I eventually worked in some trades and stuff. And had I maybe went to a trade school, things might have worked out a little bit differently. But I mean, I've always been pretty decent with my hands.
Yeah.
And I'm not
sure you are.
Positive. Oh my goodness. Well, as I was saying, positive or negative or whatever, you know, like if you're really good at math and you want to do math things and go to school to be a mathematician, that's fine. But it's like, if you don't want to do that, you know, like there are other options available, and it is okay to
not go to school.
Yeah, like if you don't want to be a doctor and you have no interest in it, why are you forcing yourself to go through 8 years of schooling to be something you don't want to be, when you might be perfectly happy making $100,000 a year being a forklift driver or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I think that these big jobs, the doctors and the lawyers, these are like, they were glorified, and they kind of outshined these other jobs that are perfectly acceptable for kids to try to get.
Yeah.
And so like now I work for a county water department, and if I could have got this job when I was 18, by the time now I'm 34, I would be so far up, have so much retirement built up.
Yeah.
I would have, I'd be set for the rest of my life already. And a lot of people, they don't think about that. They think, oh, I got to get into these really cool looking jobs instead of just like working at a shit plant like what I do now. So, but now being a little older, looking at it, I think, man, this would be a great job for an 18-year-old kid. And if he can stick it out for the next 10, 20 years, he'll be set for the rest of his life. But now everybody's just like, oh, I want to get this job where I'm working in the corporate world and I'm pulling in $200,000 a year. I'm 25 years old and I got all this money. I got to look cool. I got to have this nice truck, that type of stuff. So I think it's a weird, I guess it's a weird, it's fueled by social media, you know. There's this weird like norm that people have that you have, or not a norm, I guess it's this thing that everybody wants is this thing that everybody's looking to. So,
well, it's interesting too, like to learn the realities of that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not that it's not possible, and you can do that if you want, but also realize that there are a lot of other people that go to college to do that exact same thing.
Yeah.
So it's not just going to be as easy as I go to school for 4 years and I walk on somewhere making an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little more complicated than that.
As the job fields for a lot of those jobs that everybody was looking at 5 years ago are already full.
Yeah.
And so a lot of kids are getting out of college, and then they're finding out, oh, there's not a place for me in that world, in that field. And then they're having to switch, change directions, and it's really throwing a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So like my sister has a 4-year degree in like art history. I don't know what type of job you get with that, but she's a nanny now. She has a bachelor's degree and she makes quite a bit of money being a nanny. So like there's a lot of people out there like that spent 4 or 5 years of their life getting a degree and they didn't have to.
No.
So yeah, that's what I've seen a lot of.
Well, I mean, you figured out college wasn't for you, and that's good. So were you going to school when we were together in?
I think so.
Okay.
In that unit, and I think I can't remember what year that was, but yeah, most likely
it had to be 2012, 13.
Yeah, I was
maybe
in school.
14, something like that.
Yeah,
because I was there for like 2 years, I think.
Yeah. I think you may have been there when I went into the IRR. I think you may have still been there when I went in IRR.
Well, we were together for a little while. Yeah. I mean, we did several things together. So you got out of AIT and you went to there. What year did you join the Army? You remember?
2009, January of 2009.
Okay. Yeah. So you would have already been there for a while.
Yeah, I was there. So I think when I got there, the unit was getting ready to deploy. And then they deployed, and I was rear detachment. There was like 10 of us there. It was like it was honestly some of the easiest drills because we had no equipment, and we had already gotten all our stuff done. Because we were there during the ramp up towards a deployment. Mm-hmm. So all of our stuff, we were all green across the board. So we'd get there and like somebody bring a laptop and we'd watch a movie and our like. One of the E8s would be over there just like sleeping in his chair. It was awesome. And then like 1, 2 o'clock would roll around. And we'd just get out of there.
Day's done.
It was pretty awesome. And then sometimes we'd have stuff to do. But most of the time it was just like, well, hang out in the cubicles. And so we'd hang out in the cubicles and play like rank darts. You pull his rank off, try to throw it at the other guy, get it stick. For like hours. Hours. And then just go home. Come back the next day, do it again.
Try to make yourself scarce. That way any other unit sniffing around through the building doesn't go like, hey, what
was a drill sergeant unit
those guys doing?
Yeah. Well, they knew exactly what we were doing. They were doing the same thing. Yeah. So, no, we'd be in the cubicles and like we'd hear something. So we'd like pop up, look around, go back down. Like, who was that?
Little meerkats.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really have an alarm. We just kind of like snuck around and just like, hey, this is going on. Run back. Yeah, no, it was really boring. But I think you got there after the unit had come back.
I was going to say it had to have been because it was a full battalion there when I came back.
Yeah, it was, And then we had another unit attached to us, which was like 20 people.
Yeah.
And I actually ran into the NCOIC, the non-commissioned officer in charge of that detachment, when I was in another unit. So he was there, and I remember, having interactions with him. He was only like a staff sergeant at that time, but he was in charge of that whole detachment. And then fast forward like 10 years, I was down in Florida. And then all of a sudden, he's the sergeant major in charge of the unit that, like, I guess he was in charge of several units, but he was down there. And I was just like, holy crap. He was like, I don't know what it is about sergeant majors, but they're all like 5'2", 5'3", all the ones in the reserves at least. We were all standing around as soldiers do in like this circle, just sitting there talking and just bullshitting. And then all of a sudden I looked back and I thought it was like an E1, E2. Then I'd look back again, do a double take. And no, it's Sergeant Major right behind us. We're like, oh shit. It was scattered like roaches, but it was, he was actually a really cool guy. I just randomly ran it. The Army's so small. It's insane. But he remembers, I don't know if you remember him, a guy named Character.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Character ended up being in my unit after the 1188th. And then he ended up getting deployed again with somebody else. It was, for those who are listening, Character was exactly what his name is.
He was a character.
He was a character. And one of the weirdest dudes ever. His huge head, really long legs, super tiny torso. Just a crazy guy. He almost fought one of the. We had a female first sergeant. He was trying to go after her, and one of the other, like several of the other sergeants, had to hold him back.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was still in. They were trying to kick him out, and for whatever reason, they couldn't kick him out. But that was a weird guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I got to the 1188 that everything was just like in disarray, and
It was always like that.
Well, the whole idea. So it seemed like it was throughout the entire SDDC, the Service Deployment Distribution Command that we were in. So like our whole thing seemed to be organized just so strangely because we were a battalion, but we were sort of like an administrative battalion, but we didn't do administrative. We were supposed to be like execution. And we had 3 faux companies of people, and we were like supposed to be able to go overseas and do the planning and the moves, but nothing ever really worked. And we had a first sergeant who was a first sergeant, but not really a first sergeant because we were in a battalion. So we had a sergeant major, and it was organizationally, it was very strange on how it all shook out.
I was there for like 3 or 4 years. And I never actually saw a diamond on any.
Because he wasn't an actual first. He couldn't hold that rank.
He was a master sergeant.
It didn't actually exist within the battalion.
So
because it would have been different if we were our own company under 11. If we were our own unit under the 1188.
Yeah.
And then we would have had a first sergeant. But that's what I'm saying. Like he was our first sergeant when it needed to split us up into the 3 platoons that they called companies.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a diamond. He was a master sergeant.
Yeah.
But the only authority he had was like at formation.
So, and the weird thing is like we had the master sergeant, but then there were, I don't know, a lot of times I think he had left or got transferred somewhere. And then our first sergeant was like an E6.
Yeah.
A lot, and that was like that for a while. And
I remember, I want to say the first sergeant had some complications. They let him drill with another unit that was closer to him for a little while or something like that. I can't remember specifically.
But then we also had some E7s there, but they weren't taking that role. And then it was weird.
Yeah.
It was really, that was weird.
Organizationally, it was set up very strange. Yeah. And then I get there and we get you fools.
Yeah.
Like you and me who are sitting in these raggedy, torn up uniforms that haven't been replaced in years. Like,
what is it? DXing? What is that?
Yeah. You're supposed to be able. Right? I'm like, and you guys would came and tell me about it. Hey man, like I wasn't even assigned as your sergeant at that time. I don't think. I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, why do you always look like garbage? And they're like, well, I don't know.
We've been in for like 3 or 4 years and never got any new.
Yeah, they won't let us get new uniforms. Like, what do you mean they won't let you? They have to give you new uniforms every so often.
Got them. I didn't get TA-50 for like 5 years. TA-50 is like the issue, like your like rucksack and other stuff that you normally get, but like I didn't get any of that.
No. Yeah, they never assigned
I didn't get a helmet.
To you?
Yeah, I didn't get a helmet for years.
Well, like in my unit down here, or when I was down in Florida, we all had it, but like we got to the cage, you get your stuff assigned, you check it all off, and then you locked it back in the cage because we never needed it, so it just stayed there.
So you didn't lose anything.
Yeah, so you didn't lose anything because if you took it home and you lost something, you'd be responsible for it. So that also, I don't remember getting issued anything in 1188. But that's another one of those. Is like we didn't really need that on hand. They give you that stuff when you mobilize to go overseas anyway. You don't like your unit's supposed to have it, but most of them didn't, so they give it to you anyway. Yeah. And so it was I don't know. It was just all so strange and backwards and didn't make any sense.
I don't know. And then I think the supply. I don't know if you were there, but there was a corporal that was there that was the supply guy, the supply sergeant. He was there, and then 1 month he wasn't there. It turns out he popped hot on a drug test. Yeah. And then he was just gone. And he was like the only one that seemed to be doing something. Like he seemed like he was doing his job. But at the time, I didn't know. I didn't know what they were doing. And
he kept trying, but he was being hamstrung by his sergeant because his sergeant wouldn't do any work.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
And then we would push things up to brigade, and they would kick stuff back down. Because I remember when we went to, did you go to California with us?
No, I didn't get to go.
Okay, yeah, I think me and might have went. But when we were in California. Yeah. they had our sergeant major of the division was there. And I asked them, I'm like, hey, Sergeant Major, I'm having trouble getting soldiers' uniforms and stuff through supply, and our supply chain is, saying that we can't get this stuff approved. Like, is there any kind of plan? Can we get some help with that? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, like, he's like, we send stuff to brigade, and they said they came. He's like, that is bullshit. He's like, you see me after the meeting, we will get that straightened out right now.
Probably nothing happened.
No, people got uniforms, man. What? It was like immediately we got back because it was a process. Like you turn in your old ones after so many years, they give you new ones. As soon as we get back, everybody's getting uniforms, everybody's getting new patches and nameplates, and it was just turns out that like multiple levels of the chain were lying. Like supply dude wasn't putting in the request, or when he was, and it would get to brigade would tell you no for no other reason than like
they didn't want to do the work.
Somebody was maybe trying to make their budget look good that year or something. But then, as soon as it happened, he came in, and I don't know who he talked to, but a couple of heads got kicked in, and we started getting stuff. And
so like supply sergeants, they'll end up. They seem like they're doing really good, and you see a bunch of people get a bunch of stuff, and then like you're like, wow, they really know what they're doing, and then. Like a little bit later, you'd be like, oh, yeah, Sergeant so-and-so, they'll get you what you need. And then they all of a sudden can't get what you need. And then other people in the unit are like, oh, yeah, they're just not doing their job. They're a piece of shit, all this other stuff. And you're like, just like 6 months ago, you guys were singing their praises. I don't know what happened. And I don't know. It seems to be with like every single new supply sergeant, either they come in strong, they start doing a bunch of stuff, and then they kind of peter out, or they lose the support and they're not able to continue doing what they were doing. Yeah. And I don't know what's going on with that. My last unit, it was right when ACUs were becoming, out of regs. They were going out of regs, and we literally went all the way up until the day they were out of regs, and we showed up in our PTs that they had gotten us. And then we started getting our issues of OCPs. So
you mean like when they were transitioning from one uniform to the new one, and you guys couldn't get them?
We couldn't. We didn't have them. Like they were like, oh yeah, we'll get you them. Then we get them, and they gave us the tops. Like some of us got the bottoms, and then other people got the tops. And then like I never got boots. I never got issued boots from that. And like I had the tops and the bottoms, no boots. I think I went out and I ended up buying a PC, a patrol cap, and my ranks and all this other stuff. And then they gave me my name tapes. And then I had to buy T-shirts, all sorts of. I had to do all of that just to be within regs. And like, if it wasn't, I know some of the guys were just like wearing PTs. I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go out and buy it. And I did that. And some of the other guys, they stayed in PTs for forever and, for a couple months. And then they finally, like, nothing happened. They just stayed in PTs. And then they were like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go buy it anyway. And so they did. But yeah, that's the supply that I've always like. That's the things that happen with supply. My entire 15 years I've been in, they keep telling us we're supposed to get new boots, and I've heard that 10 times over the last 10 years. Oh yeah, we're gonna get you boots. Yeah. What's your size? I give them my size. I give them all that stuff. Nothing ever happens.
Well, even in the 1188, didn't they do that too? Like they kept saying, because you guys, the 88 hotels, you were supposed to have the steel toes. Yep. And they kept telling us, they would ask us like every drill, hey, what size are your boots? We're ordering steel toes.
Nothing happened.
Never ever got the steel. No. Eventually, they got the little toe cap things. Yep. Where you could strap it onto your boots.
I just don't wear the steel toes now because it's like. The stuff we deal with, if something lands on your foot's gone.
Yeah.
And so, like, the steel toe is not going to help unless you're like, you drop a tool or your rifle on it.
It's the same thing as like hard hats. You know, if you drop a wrench on somebody, great. If a 10K container comes swinging through and hits somebody, even wearing the hard hat, it's going to tear your head off. So it's like...
It's not really going to do much. But at the same time... I understand why they make us wear it, but
I'm not opposed to being safe. Yeah. But it's like using it realistically and practically, you know what I mean?
Ground guides. Yeah. Okay. If you got people that can drive a 10K, you don't need 2 ground guides. You don't even need a ground guide. Maybe somebody sitting there like making sure nobody's walking into the area, but they make it so unsafe because they want 2 ground guides out there with you when you're moving around containers that weigh 2,000-3,000 pounds. And then you got a guy behind you that you can't see. You got a guy in front of you that's right next to the container you're moving. And you're just like, guys, just get out of the way. I can move this without you.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, there's a sergeant major somewhere on post that if he sees you, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sergeant major doesn't give 2 shits whether or not I have a ground guide. He doesn't even know I need one until you say something.
It's so funny too because it's so much theater. It's so much of the we have to maintain but it's like, you know, everybody poops.
Yeah.
You know, why can't we talk about poop? Everybody does it. Everybody knows this is useless.
Yeah.
No one is surprised, but we got to do it because like someone said we had to.
That's my biggest complaint with the military over the past, my entire career is that a lot of times the reason why it sucks to be in the military is because you're in the military. And it's like, we can go over here and we can do it this way, or we can do it this way. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. Well, look, we have to do it the hard way because we're the Army. And that is why most people get out because like there are many easier ways to do certain things. And the leadership purposefully makes it hard just to make it suck. And it's like, it's cold outside. We don't have to do this today. Yeah. We don't have to do this today. We can wait until it warms up.
Yeah.
Nope. It's cold outside. What do you guys are in the Army, right? Go outside and do it. It's just like, well, it's not, you know, you didn't tell us the conditions we were going to be in, or a lot of these people haven't been issued the right equipment to, you know, be out in this cold. And they're just like, yep, too bad. Just go out there and do it. And then so like a lot of people, including myself, get a bad taste in my mouth because the leadership preaches, take care of your soldiers, take care of your soldiers, take care of your soldiers. And then when we try to do that, they're like, well, they signed up, didn't they?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, they didn't sign up to be, you know, bossed around by dicks.
Well, there's a level when it becomes like abuse. You know, I was thinking about it the other day when it started getting cool out. Like, oh, well, the base policy is certain temperatures and this, that one. Or like one person shows up and they don't have pants. Like, all right, everybody's got to take their pants off. Like, I understand the whole, you know, keeping each other accountable thing.
Yeah.
But we're all already here. This dude showed up late with no pants on. Yeah. Take him out back and correct him. Don't punish everybody else in 10-degree weather.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's a huge thing I see is that they create their own problems and they create their own, like, the leadership. I don't know what it is. It's like this weird mentality where once you reach a certain rank, you lose thought patterns. I don't know. You lose intelligence. I don't know what it is, but they make it worse than it should be. And I think it's really screwing over the Army as a whole because people like me that have been in for a long time don't want to stay in. And because it feels like it's gotten worse, or maybe I'm just getting older. I I can't deal with the bullshit as much as I used to.
Less patience for it.
Yeah, because it's stupid, the stuff we do. This past drill that I had, I was on advanced party, so we left a day early from the main group, and we get out there, and we were supposed to go pick up ammo. We get there, and then the ammo supply point was just like, yeah, we don't give out ammo past 11:30. We got there at like 1300. Our paperwork said 1300. And they told us all that, and they're like, no, you got to come back tomorrow. So we wasted an entire day getting out there, trying to pick up ammo. Nothing happened. Next day, we get out there, we pick up ammo, everything goes up. Dude, those guys are super cool at that. I don't know if you've ever had to pick up ammo. Those guys were super awesome there. They were super chill. They didn't even check like half the crap. I don't want to get them in trouble. I won't say where I was. But they were super chill. They were super awesome. And it took like 15 minutes to pick up the ammo. But when we get out to the range, our main body is supposed to get there like 11 o'clock. We get out there like 9. So we're waiting around for 2 hours. Nobody shows up. One of our Humvees breaks down, of course. So then we're out trying to find parts for it. We get back over there. It's like 12. No one's there, except for us that was already there. We start driving around some more, come back. Probably about 2 o'clock, our main body starts showing up. Turns out we don't have any of the stuff we need to go hot because the main body thought somebody else had grabbed it. And then like all this other, it was just this huge cluster. Then they kept sending everybody to the range, even though we couldn't even shoot yet because we didn't have anything. And then by the time they get everybody there except for one load of people, they were like, all right, load everybody back up, and they sent them back to the barracks.
Range is closing.
Range is going cold. It never went hot. And then the first sergeant just started like playing the blame game, started like pointing fingers at everybody, and it's just the way it goes, you know, and that's now, like that's recent, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. Like nobody's taking, I don't know if they're just forgetting how to do stuff or they're promoting people that shouldn't be promoted, which is more than likely what's going on. It's just getting crazy, man. Yeah. I don't know. I just want to stay in, keep my insurance, my TRICARE.
Got 5 years left.
Yeah, 5 years left. That's probably like 6 because I probably have a bad year somewhere.
Point system, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But I just want to stay in and do all that and just keep the insurance and keep going. But like now they know, most of the people know I've been in for a while. And so even as a corporal, E4, I still get tasked to do E5 stuff. And so I'm getting more and more responsibility without the rank and without the pay. But I don't know. And I try to make it easier on my guys when I'm actually in charge. But sometimes there's no way around it because I can't do anything. I'm an E4. So, but the people up, I don't know what's going on with leadership, but it's weird.
A lot of it is just that failure to communicate on so many levels, and like I say, it's not a new thing for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a big reason why.
Yeah.
Like you say that guy's been in a while. I mean, it's a big reason why I finally gave up. Yeah. I just got tired of doing one of that stuff, and I could have done things better. Yeah. You know, like, but at the same time. It's like, man, I'm trying to be one of the good ones and still getting screwed all the time. Man, I don't want to do that anymore, man.
So I had a commander, and this kind of like, this made me really think about not re-enlisting. I had a commander, so I re-enlisted. I was supposed to get a bonus for re-enlisting. I was trying to get my SSD, Soldier Self-Development 1, which is the thing you needed to do. It was an online course that you had to do before you went to BLC to get E5.
Okay, yeah.
I was trying to get that done. It was on AKO. Well, my computer wouldn't run it. And that's not an unusual thing, that all those programs, you have to be.
The systems they had were garbage.
Yeah. And like literally if you were on the wrong Zoom on your browser, it wouldn't work. And so like it was stuff like that was simple, but it was hard to pinpoint whichever one it was. So I went into drill one weekend and I let them know, hey, I couldn't get it done. They said, get it done or don't come into drill. And I had a legitimate reason because I literally couldn't get it done. I spent like 10 hours trying to get it done. And they were like, nope. And they gave me U's for the weekend.
Wow.
And it was within my 90 days of reenlistment. My commander cost me $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it cost me my reenlistment bonus. And it's leaders like him who didn't know the situation or anything, but said nope, and just sent me home, that have caused a lot of people not to reenlist.
Well, and see, that's one of those situations where the Army says you have to do all this online stuff, but then they don't provide you laptops to do all this online stuff.
I could have done it at drill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like they don't provide you an internet connection, and you'll have some just like, oh, just go to the library and do it. But it's like you can't just go to a library.
They don't have a cat card reader.
Yeah. Well, not just the cat card reader part, but it's like a lot of them have their own infrastructure that doesn't let those websites work. Like it's not that. So a sensible sergeant, someone in leadership would be like, listen, we need to make it a plan at drill weekend to get all these people into the computer center at the reserve center. And get them all through it and make it happen. But no, this whole just like, it's all on you, buddy. We're going to provide you no way to do it and just good luck.
Here's a cat card reader. Yeah. Hopefully you have something that you can plug it into. Yeah. And at the time I was using my mom's laptop. And so I was having to steal my mom's laptop that she uses, every day. And they just didn't care. Yeah. It was stupid. But yeah, I don't know. The military is fun. I think if you're a single man or woman,
a single person,
and if you're single and you don't mind, you're not super uptight, you get in there and you just take what comes to you. I think it can be really fun. You make a lot of really good friends, but other than that, like it's getting harder to suggest the military to kids.
Yeah.
Kids coming out of high school, because it's just so much bullshit and bureaucracy and I don't even know. It's just weird. It's a weird place.
But yeah, I feel the same way sometimes. Like people ask me, like if you would go into, it's like, it's not that I would say to not go into the military,
but you have to know what it is.
Yeah, but you should really know what the reality of being in the military is like. And for some people, they don't have any of those issues. And they just have like super awesome careers, and it just happens. I mean, like, but I don't.
So me being in for so long, I have so many friends from. Really my last unit, well, it was weird. So I was in with you, and then I went in IRR, came back into another unit, got involuntarily transferred to another unit, got transferred back to my second unit, and then now I'm in a whole new unit. So I've really been in like 5 units now. But my second unit, I was in there with a bunch of guys, and they got transferred with me and all this other stuff. And a lot of those guys are E6s and above now, or most of them are E6s, and they're actually in staff positions. So I get to see behind the veil on a lot of stuff, and I also get included in a lot of stuff that I see. And I don't know if it helps, because sometimes I think ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And like not knowing how the stuff actually works was actually better for me, just being a soldier. But getting in there and getting to see all the stuff, sometimes it's really nice, because all your E6 friends are hopping in the van going over here, and they're like, yeah, come too. And I was like, yeah, I get to hop in the van and not have to sit around. But it's strange to see all these guys, and most of those guys that are E6s are still wanting to, they're basically in the same boat I am, getting tired of all the stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And they're about ready to get out. But a lot of them just went full time, so I don't know.
Just got their indefinites. Well, I'm sure, you reach a certain point too. I mean, if they're E6, then, you've got 12 plus probably years at that point, and looking at not too much longer to be able to retire. And I was hoping at one time for that, but I was just like, I got so tired of it. So I was like, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
There were some fun times though. I mean,
I still remember Meehan dancing in the van, the minivan that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good time.
Going to Sunny Point, North Carolina.
That was awesome. On the beach.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the weird moments that like when you feel like a military, what you see in the movie kind of idea. Like we were in these condos by the beach. We got to go to the beach like whenever we weren't working. Day. Yeah, if we wanted to, we could go to him and I were running on the beach and stuff. And we hung out there that weekend. Yeah. And that was kind of cool. But walking to the little convenience store.
Yeah, it was a Food Lion. Yeah. They
past the 20-foot tall deer and stuff that would run across the road through there.
It always cracked me up. So if you remember, they told us not to drink because there was a unit that was there before us that one of their soldiers got a DUI.
Yeah.
While they were on the island out there. And turns out in my last unit, there was a guy in that unit that was part of that unit.
Really?
That had the guy that got the DUI. They were there at the same time. Super small world, like I was saying.
Did you ask them, like, hey, man, what happened with that?
Yeah. He was just out partying and got a DUI. And I was like, so you're the reason. We all still drank. Everybody drank. We got in there. They were like, no drinking. And we go into the condo. You open the fridge. There's like a 24 pack in there. Yeah. And so
we were at least trying to be discreet about it. Like when we went to the beach, we were.
Yeah. That was when Summer Shandy came out, and then me and Meehan I had a little cooler. We loaded that sucker up. We went out to the beach, and we walked like a mile down the beach.
Yep.
And set up, and we drank all of those in like 30 minutes. There's like 16 of them in there. And then we came back, and Meehan passed out. That was a good time. It was a good time.
Didn't he get super sunburnt too?
Yeah, well,
if I remember correctly, he had very fair skin. Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's something about him getting super sunburnt.
I can't even remember that.
I don't even remember what we did on the port because we basically did nothing the entire time.
Us three with Meehan, we did nothing, and we were done at like 1:00 in the afternoon every single day, and we just went to the beach. And then the second week, I was actually going into the ship, and we were putting the pieces that go in between the containers so they don't slide.
Little pineapple guys.
Yeah. We were putting those in there, and so I got to ride on that crane. And we climbed on top of the top handler that was on that crane that went over the ship. He climbed on top of that, and it raised us up and put us down in the hold. And then we were late one day. And we had to climb through that ship all the way down to the bottom. That was crazy. That was really insane. Trying to figure out where we were going because it all looks the same in there. Going through portholes that you had to like put one leg.
You were not a small man.
No,
I'm sure that wasn't.
That was when I was back when I was real out of shape. I started getting in shape after that, but I was fat. I was really fat reservist. I'm still fat. We actually had something to do. It wasn't hard. We just kind of hung out and waited for containers to load into the ship, and that was about it. That's all we did.
I honestly don't even remember what I did the second week.
You probably didn't really, because it was all run by civilians.
Yeah.
And so
they wouldn't let us do a whole lot.
The only thing we did was inside the ship. We just walked around with these metal things that go in And the holes in the top, we just set them down. And then we just sat around and waited for another container to come back in. They dropped it in and put more pineapple things out, and then boom, we're just that's all we did all day. Then lunchtime, it was union guys, so we were out of there by it's 4:30. We were out, and we weren't supposed to touch anything.
Well, it made it really difficult because it's like we're here to learn, we're here to train,
Yeah. The guy we were working with, he was I think he was an Army guy before, and so he was real cool. But none of those guys, they didn't really want us there, but we were there.
Yeah.
And so he was actually working with us, but there was not much he could do. He could teach us. Yeah, you get this thing, you put it down here, and you're done. That was it. That was all. And just hanging out. That was about it. That's about all we did.
No.
But it was weird being in there because you stack those containers I forgot how many high. It was 10 high. And they're over 8 foot tall. But then you have this ladder that you're having to climb up on top of the next row to get up there. And it was kind of sketchy because there's this 2 foot gap in between them that goes down 80 feet. It was kind of sketchy. I was like, I don't know if you could stop yourself going down there. That would suck. Then how would they get you out?
They just wait until they unload the ship.
Yeah.
We'll get you after when it's empty.
Well, we found a bunch of petrified tree frogs in there. And we're like, that could be us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once we download, we go pull everything off the ship. We'll pull you out from underneath after that.
We'll get you eventually. Or maybe enough tree frogs in there you could survive for a little bit. Well, it's like jerky.
Gross.
Yeah.
Did you do any other ATs and stuff? I mean, I'm sure you've done a few others since.
I've done some cool ones. Let's see. We've done vibrant response. So, which is this huge training exercise up in Indiana, where there's literal thousands of soldiers. Air Force is out there, Marines. I think Navy's actually out there as well. And it's this huge scenario where something happens, natural disaster, or we get attacked, and then they run through these scenarios. You can go out on a mission where you're going and picking up refugees that were displaced or whatever, and they have hundreds of role players, civilian role players. So you get out there, and there's these teenage girls bawling their eyes out, and you're like, what is this? And they're like, all right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna go over here, secure this area, and get these people out. And they tell the people to rush the gate that they're trying to secure, and then they're yelling at you, and they're at one point we were up there, and they're like, all right, women, children first, let's get them. And then this dude, he was probably 6'2" and had a mustache and beard, and he's like, I identify as a woman. We're like, oh yeah, we're trying to. And then everybody laughed and everybody broke character. We're just like, no. But
go back to your hole.
Yeah, go back to your hole. And then these girls were just crying and bawling their eyes out and not wanting to move. And then you're trying to be respect. It was fun. It was really fun. But yeah, we've done stuff like that. We've done just setting up crisp yards, and we were just there in an enabler unit or whatever for other people's ATs, where we just show up and just unload gear and load up gear. So I've actually got to do my job quite a bit over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
But other than that, before that, been in for 15, probably a solid 8 of those years. I
did nothing.
Didn't do anything. But now I get to do stuff.
No.
But I don't know, this new unit, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Judging by the range that we just did, it may not happen.
Not a good first impression.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. First sergeant seems okay, but I don't know. We'll see in the future.
Yeah.
He likes to talk.
like you say, sitting around, oh, we got to do this computer class. We got to do this PowerPoint. And I remember reading articles at one time about like the Army and all the PowerPoint training and things like that. And it's just insane. The amount that they think they could get done by just showing you some words on a projector screen.
Literally, you would be better off having somebody come up and talk for 5-10 minutes, hit the high points, and then have everybody sign the sheet than they do with an hour-long class. Because nobody's paying attention after about 5-10 minutes. Like, unless you're very interested in the subject, nobody wants to be there. The instructors, which are just normal, just everyday, just another soldier that got tasked to do it, they don't know enough about it to answer questions 90% of the time. They don't care enough about it to really look into it. And so, like, it's not an interactive course. It's not anything good. And so you just sit there and you just bear it and you just get through it. And then somebody will ask you a question 5 minutes later and you have no clue.
Yeah. And you're totally checked out. Yeah. Not listening at all.
There's, but then they still walk around and they're just like, you can't be sleeping, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, we're better off sleeping than we are listening to this crap, because it also usually doesn't pertain to us.
And that goes back to that what we talked about a little bit earlier, is like everybody knows what it's like, but we all got to keep up this appearance of, and it's and training and teaching and stuff, it's a skill.
Yeah.
Because some of the worst NCOs ever would be like, hey, we need to train this. Yeah. And then they interpret that as, I'm going to go up there and call on random people to read slides from the board. And then you get just somebody that's just like, the Army, hubba, hubba, hubba. And it's like, dude, everybody's so bored and so checked out.
Spend hours doing that. And you already have the group of people that don't want to be there anyway, because drill is a waste of time. like literally, probably, if everybody was doing what they're supposed to do, a 2-day drill on the weekend, you really only need to be there for a good 4 hours.
Yeah. Could be boiled down to just a couple hours.
You're usually there for at least probably about 12 hours a day. So 24 hours that you're there out of a 48-hour block. You're there for half the time. You really only need to be there for about 4. To get the stuff done, you need to. But they drag it out. We could be done with everything that we needed to get done. We'll be there for another 4 hours. We're literally just sitting around. There's soldiers sitting around on the floor, like playing on their phones, talking to each other. And I'll walk up to somebody and be like, why are we still here?
Because first sergeant's in a meeting with Sergeant Major, and they forgot to release everybody, thinking we don't need them all here for us to have our command meeting, you know?
Yeah, and it just keeps going and going and going. But it's the older I get, the less patience I have with it. And it's just me and one of my best Army friend, he's now an E6. I sit there. He's in a different platoon. He used to be my squad leader. Now he's in a different platoon. And now I'm sitting there fraternizing with the other platoon because I go over and hang out in his office. And they're like, why are you here? But I go up and talk to him because now he's a platoon sergeant. And he's just like, he has no clue either. Yeah. He's like, I don't know why we're here either. And it's just the top people that are causing a lot of, it's not pain, but just it's a lot of frustration because they could let us go hours before they do, and they just hold us there.
I always had such an issue with like a lot of the full-timers, like the people who work there during the week, and it would be the weekend, it'd be drill, and they didn't do anything all week long.
And then they try to fit it.
Then they try to fit it all into drill weekend, and I would get into like shutting the door, screaming fights with these sergeants. Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, I got to do this for that and blah, blah. I'm like, I don't give a good goddamn. You have soldiers here right now who have things that need to get done. Yeah. You were supposed to hash this out with whoever it is.
You had a month.
Yeah, you've had every day of the week. Yeah. You come in at 10. Yep. You go to lunch 2 hours later. Yep. You take a 2-hour lunch. Then you leave and go home at 3 and 4 in the afternoon. Yep. Like, they are here now. Yep. They have pay issues. They have this. They have that. That is your focus. On drill weekend, it's about them. Yeah. I don't give a crap what you go, oh, but Sergeant Major's like, oh, go talk to Sergeant Major right now. I don't give a good goddamn.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they, that was one of the units that I got transferred to. They had like, so the mission that I've been on for the last like 6 years. So going back to like, I've never been deployed. So, in the entire 15 years I've been in, never been deployed. The last 6 years, I was in units that were non-deployable. And they were part of the CRE mission, which is where if the United States gets attacked or whatever, we would be the unit that would get sent out to set up a crypt yard to receive every unit's equipment and be able to send it out to where it needs to go. That would be our job. So like COVID with the federal state of emergency, they were talking about sending us up to New York or wherever the big major spots were. But those units, they get tons of funding and tons of money. So they hire a bunch of people on ADOS orders. They bring a bunch of people in, and so they, instead of just having a regular unit staff, which is only like 5 or 6 people, they would have like 10 or 15. And the unit before last that I was in they had like 10 people in there full time, and they didn't do anything during the week for like 3.5 weeks before the next drill. Nothing got done. And the week leading up to drill, it was just a mad dash trying to get everything done that they had 3 weeks to get done. And it was terrible. You get out there and they were supposed to have it done like the week after drill. It still wasn't done 2 or 3 days before the next drill. They were out of Florida, and they were in a pretty, like, I don't know. It's a weird, like, that unit was super weird. They like to party a lot. And I don't know if that's just what they did all the time. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh crap, we got to go back to work. But that's what it seemed like. And they were like really relaxed, and I guess they weren't like, I don't know. I think they were just there collecting a paycheck instead of like there for the job. They were just kind of checked out most of the time, and all of a sudden they realized it was crunch time, and started doing it all again. But
someone pulled up a spreadsheet and everything's like reds and yellows, like, crap.
We should have done this forever ago, but they never did.
Yeah. What's ADOS? I don't remember.
I can't remember what ADOS stands for, but it is basically you can get put on ADOS orders where you're basically like an AGR guy, but you're not active. You're not technically an active reservist. It's a different set of orders, but you can be on ADOS for
like a temporary for being a full-time job kind of thing. Gotcha.
So a lot of the guys that are now staff members, they were on ADOS for like 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So they would have a contract for a year, and then they renew that, like get a new contract for another year or so. And they did that for a while. Now most of them are AGR, where they're active. I think it stands for active guard or reserve.
Yeah, active guard reserve thing.
So they're technically active duty now. So, but they're active duty reservists.
They're full timers.
Yeah, full time reservists. Yeah. So,
So they have to show up and work during the week, but then they have to put the uniform on that once a month as well. And
I think they actually wear their uniform all
do they all the time now?
Because they're not in a civilian position.
Okay, yeah. I'm confusing like the civilian contractors because they'd have to wear the uniform their entire.
I think those guys are DoD civilians. Actually.
Yeah.
Like when in the unit we were both in, there was Mrs. I can't remember, sergeant. She was sergeant first class something. On the weekends, and then she was Mrs.
Yeah, because we had a couple of those that were DoD civilians, so they would work in like polo shirts during the week, and then drill weekend they'd have to dress up,
and then they'd do the exact same job they were doing during the week. So yeah, they just changed clothes. But I don't know. It's the military has gone. Military has been good to me, though. I will say. It's been good to me. The insurance over the past 4 years has really saved me, and that's why I'm still in.
Well, I mean, the prices of insurance and stuff have gone bananas the last couple of years.
I've stayed in I re-enlisted just because of the insurance, and this next one will be the biggest reason that I'll be staying in the military. Is the insurance, because I can't afford not to.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm almost under duress. Not really. It's fun. We have some fun still. Like the little stuff that you do, like being at advanced party for this last drill. We were all downstairs the first night before the main body, and they brought a bunch of like what are the switches, the video games.
Nintendo,
Yeah, the Nintendo Switches. And two of the guys brought them. And so they were playing like Mario Party. And it was just a bunch of dudes just sitting around in this building that should be torn down. And we're all just chilling out in this big room with M4s just laying around and just like flip-flops and people just playing these video games. Yelling at each other. It was awesome. It was really fun. And then the main body got there, and then it was a
everything.
shit show. Yeah. And then I don't know what it is about transportation companies, but somehow we're supposed to be like the spearhead of logistics. We get there, and they don't have enough transportation to get all the unit to the range, and it takes like literally like 3 hours to get the entire unit out to the range.
Yep.
And I'm just like. How did you guys not plan for that?
I'm sure it's like you say, the bureaucracy, the red tape. It's always we got to do the most with the least amount of stuff because how many packs do we have? How many people do we have? Yeah. Oh, we got 40. So what should we get? A 15 passenger van. Yeah. Why not just get a bus like
a Bluebird?
Why would we? Oh well, okay. So if we have 40, that means we have to get at least 3 vans, right? They're like, okay, we'll just get 2. But why? Well, we could get the cost of this, that, what. I'm like, you're telling me the Army can't get us 3 vans to just move all 40 people at one time. And then
save so much time.
What about equipment? Where are you going to put your bags? So then
one full van needs to be for bags.
Yeah. So, okay, well, all right. We'll give you the 3rd van. So then we can move all the people. And then we can come back and get the bags, or we can move like half the people and half the bags, it's always a nightmare. Dude, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's funny that you say that because we got sent somewhere. We got sent down to Florida, and we get down there, and the van that they had given us, there's 15 of us. They give us a minivan, 7 seats, with all of our gear that we're supposed to stay down there for 4 or 5 days. And do military stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't just have like a backpack. We have like a duffel bag full of stuff with our gear in it. So we literally packed like, we packed like everybody in there. People's gear was on their laps. Like we're getting, I think we ended up getting like 10, there was 12 of us. I think we ended up getting like 10 or 12 people 10 people in the van with all the stuff. You couldn't see through the rear glass because it was just packed all the way. So me and another guy had a lovely evening. We went out and had dinner together and, we were thinking about going and catching a movie, all that stuff. And it took him like 2 hours to get back to us. So me and another guy were just walking around for 2 hours waiting for a ride. Like we took an Uber. It was just, but that's just normal stuff now. Like if you think about it, like how did you think that all these people that were going to the same hotel from one location to another, what made you think a minivan was okay when it can't even fit the amount of people? That was just normal thinking for them.
You're so lucky you missed out on California at San Luis Obispo, because I don't know if you've heard the stories. Bed bugs and the... Yeah.
That sounds about right, though.
Dude, as soon as so it was another one of those, like we didn't have enough vehicles once we got on base. They bust us in charter buses or whatever. Okay. Yeah. Well, once we got on base, we only had like the one. We might have had a second vehicle, but there was a ton of us because it was like the whole unit AT. Yeah. And we get there, and we at first we're supposed to be staying in these buildings, but we can't because something's happening with them. Yeah. So then they move us to these other... like they were like for FTX or something, you know, the old concrete with cots or bunk beds and stuff. So they move us out there,
like a chicken house type thing.
Yeah, and immediately some of the guys noticed that there's looks like there's bugs in the mattresses, and so we get looking at them. And I worked in mattresses at that time. I'm like, those are for sure bed bugs. So we like, hey, you know, higher up, we got bed bugs. So they move us all out of there, and they set us cots up in the gym, because there's bed bugs out in the buildings, and they got to do the whole tent them and superheat them for 3 days and stuff. And so then we're in order to try to make sure we kill the bed bugs so it's not in all our stuff. Yeah. I'm having to shuttle people back and forth to this little laundromat that they found. Yep. And they had somebody gave them the card to go pull out cash, and they're passing around quarters to everybody and stuff. And so we're having to put our stuff in the dryer, then wash it, then dry it again, then check it for bugs. And if you find any, you got to do it again. And yeah, it was just this, because I was the only person. Me and one other person were signed off of to drive for like the entire weekend or whatever. Because, you know, like even though you had driver's license, you had to have the whole extra military, you know, driver ID or whatever. And so, yeah, it was me and another person. We were like shuttling people back and forth. And I finally get back to the gym, and it's like 4 a.m. And like I said, I think I caught an hour of sleep before it was, hey, we got to get up, get everybody to the DFAC. And yeah. Nightmare.
That sounds. I mean, it sounds normal.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's the sad part about it, is that like the building we stayed in this past weekend, they were just like, oh yeah, second floor men's restroom. Yeah, you can't use it. We walk in there, of course. We went to go check it out. And see why. Like the ceiling over the showers was like falling in. There's mold. There's all sorts of stuff. I went and used one of the urinals in there, and like literally, I just went over to there and I started peeing, and I started hearing water hitting the floor. Dude, I was peeing straight into it, and it was going straight into the floor of the urinal. I was just like, yeah, that's about right. I just finished up and just walked out.
Wow.
I mean, there was nothing I could do.
Yeah, yeah.
And but yeah, that's pretty normal. The buildings did have heat, but
well, at least you had that.
Yeah, it was okay. But then it was too hot.
Oh,
it was super hot in there.
They always crank it to like 1 billion degrees.
Yeah, well, there's 90 people in this building. You know, the temperature is gonna come up just because there's 1 billion people inside the rooms.
Yeah.
So we had the like windows open. It was like below freezing outside, and I had the windows open just to get it cooler in there. And but I mean that's just the Army. Either it's no heat and you're dying of cold, or you're getting roasted out and you're sweating in your sleeping bag for no reason.
Yeah, but that's like when we went to Augusta, Georgia, to the range, and they had the heated building. Like, oh yeah, you can go hang out in there while in between rounds and stuff. It was like 1,000 degrees in that place.
You had to take everything off just to go in there, and then you had to put it all back on.
Yeah. And it's like, I appreciate you trying to keep us warm, but can you hit that button down a couple degrees, man?
Yeah. Man, we were in Indiana. I've been up to Indiana like 4 times. And so I've spent 2 months of my life up there. And they always send us in like late April, early May. And it always snows at least once while we're up there. And then by the end of the AT, it gets up into like the 80s. So it'll snow in the first part. In the span of 2 weeks, you'll get snow and below freezing, and then it'll also be in the 80s. And so the tents will have air blowing in there, blowing fresh air in, and it'll be AC. This last time we went, it had AC running, and it would be like 30-something degrees outside, and they'd be blowing AC inside in these big tents that we're sleeping in. And so they told us to bring our own, like, we have these little, like, scorpion tents. There's a one-person tent, and we set them up on our cots so we have a little bit of privacy instead of just laying out in an open bay. And we're inside those little tents, inside like winter sleeping bags and all this stuff, but we're inside a tent, you know, and we're trying to stay warm. And it was absolutely crazy. Like, you get up out of your sleeping bag and you can see your breath, even though you're inside this like building. It's like a tent that's a building, and it was absolutely insane. And then it got hot. And then, like, we're literally in there, like, it was a men's tent. It was a guy's tent. So I was literally, like, sitting in my underwear. I had my pants down around somebody has a picture of me with my pants down around my ankles. And, like, my top is off. I'm just sitting there, like, just hanging out, trying to get cool in the span of 2 weeks. But they always just, they either do too much or too little. Wasn't enough AC, and then there also there was no heat, which killed us out there. I ended up helping out some of the younger soldiers that didn't have sleeping bags. They didn't even get issued sleeping bags, and they're in this room that's like freezing, literally freezing. It was so stupid. And there was mud everywhere. It just went on and on and on. It was terrible. There was no, like, we didn't have food for a couple of days. We had MREs, but we were supposed to be getting fed.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being, you know, it was basically, you know, those pans of MREs that they have that they just put in hot water. And
that's what they call the hot A's or whatever.
Yeah.
We come into like the big green sealed thermal boxes. Mermites, yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't like cooked food. You know, so a lot of times when you get a Mermites, it's cooked food.
Yeah.
But the stuff we were getting, you had to like peel open the top. It's just the MRE entree, just in a bigger container. And so,
like old rations kind of thing.
It was terrible, and that's normal. So yeah, whoever's listening to this, if they want to join the military, you have to think about that.
You'll have to endure some things.
Just some things, but we had fun. We always have fun. We had one time when we were up there, we did a montage to Danger Zone, Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone, and it's hilarious. I'll have to show it to you. We were just out there just making stupid stuff because we had nothing to do, which is 95% of the time when we're doing that stuff. There's nothing to do, so we're just sitting around, usually in a gravel lot, throwing lots of rocks. That's all. I've thrown tens of thousands of rocks in my military career at just random stuff. People, just random bottles, a stick on the ground. If you find a cup just out in the middle of nowhere, somebody's probably thrown a rock at it at some point or another. Yeah. We play Battleship. You lay on either side of something where you can't see each other. You're just laying spread eagle and you're throwing a rock at the other guy on the other side.
Yeah. I remember doing stuff like that.
Yep. But you hit their battleship if you hit them in the groin area. Yeah. That's what it is. You hit them in the face, doesn't count. It's funny, but it doesn't count.
I'm trying to remember some guys in AIT, they were doing that with something, and it was something like stupidly heavy. They were throwing like a helmet back and forth or something.
That would be bad. Most of my friends aren't that dumb. Well, I say that. Nah, they would. There were a few of them that totally would.
Yeah, they were sitting in the hallway too, like in the barracks, and they put a foot on each wall down the hall.
There was a trend like that a while back where people are just destroying their own genitals. You know, just throwing stuff at each other.
Yeah.
I was like, that is the dumbest thing in the world. But yeah, as That's also normal in the military. Just the stupid games you play. We just riding in trucks all day. That's also funny in the military now. I'm an 88 hotel. I'm a cargo guy. I'm supposed to drive the forklift. I drive trucks all the time.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Like, that's literally all I do. Because now they're like, oh, you're an experienced guy. I don't want you in that forklift. But I'm just like, wouldn't you want your experienced people to drive the forklifts, get the job done, and then we can train later? No. We want the inexperienced guys to unload this truck. Well, that'll take an hour, and you already have a line of 5 trucks. It'll take an hour to unload that one truck. And they're like, nope, he's got to learn somehow. Now is not the time. We have civilians, we have units waiting on us. They're just like, nope, go sit over there. And it's just like, I could get this truck unloaded in 10 minutes. And then we could get going. And then maybe on the last truck, once we clear out the line a little bit, they won't let you. Like, the leadership will be like, no, go sit around and do nothing, even though you could really help the entire situation. But that's normal too. Yeah.
So how was being in still during COVID?
So awesome AT. So we were doing virtual drills. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I had heard a little bit.
Okay. So I think one of your former guests on here talked about it a little bit. So the virtual drills. And so you call this big, like, huge thing with a bunch of people on it. And they would give a class. It was like a PowerPoint, but just through the phone.
Yeah.
And you just have to be on the class. Like, people were monitoring it to see who all was signed in, all this stuff. And we were doing those. And then they're like, okay, we're going to AT. And we get to AT and they tell us, hey, you have to wear a mask. You have to do all this other stuff. And so we're like, we're supposed to wear a mask while we're driving in the truck with this guy, with another guy that's like 5 feet away because we're too close to each other. So we're supposed to be driving with a mask on, with gloves on, all this other stuff. Like, they wanted us to wear, like, not even rubber gloves. They just wanted us to wear gloves that we reuse. And
like cotton gloves.
It was just like, I don't understand the whole thought process behind it. But our AT, me and one of my buddies, we got put in a truck. We didn't have AC. It's the middle of summer. We're heading to Alabama. And they want us to wear masks and have our tops on and all this other stuff. And we get out there, and dude, it's 85 degrees, and it's Alabama, and it's like 80-something% humidity. We're dying out there wearing these masks. Then we get out there, and they put us in a spot. It was a floodplain. Mm-hmm. And we get in there, and they're like, we're there. We set up, like, I don't know, like GP mediums, which are those Green Army tents. We set up like 6 of those because we have so many people, and they want to spread us out. So we put up like 6 of those. The next day, they're like, hey, it's about to rain. You're in a floodplain. We got to move you out of there. So we pack up all those tents, which putting up those tents sucks so bad. It's hot. We didn't have water for the first few hours. We were out there. We load up all those tents. We go to the second location. We set up, we set up most of the tents again. The next day, it rains. It floods us out of the second spot that wasn't supposed to be a floodplain. There's mud everywhere. Inside the tents, there was good 6, 8, 10 inches of water in certain spots. We're putting everybody's stuff up on their cots. We get in there. It was so bad. We're supposed to be wearing masks that whole time. They get us out of there. They move us to a third spot. Finally, but we're right next to the brigade. So there's a bunch of brass walking around. And so that makes it even harder not to wear masks and all this other stuff. Finally get set up over there. We spend the next week and a half in there. We had a 1-star come out, talk to us. And one brave E4 stood up and asked, why were we there? Like, why are we here? And what is our mission being here? And the colonel, a full bird colonel, actually stood up and like wrangled the question, because it was his whole idea to get us all out there. And just basically, from what everybody got from it, there was no reason. So we spent 2 weeks out in Alabama. There's rattlesnakes all over the place. That was pretty cool, actually. The rattlesnakes were out there to do absolutely nothing. And then they were getting, like, we were standing out in the middle of a gravel lot, and like somebody be yelling at us from like way off at some other tents, "Where's your mask?" We're like, "What? There's nobody here." And it would be like a sergeant major in the smoke pit. You were supposed to wear your mask while you're smoking.
What?
Some of the guys were just smoking through their mask. It was the funniest thing ever. They were just over there smoking. And the crazy thing is, like, inside your tent, they didn't make you wear your mask. So you're sleeping next to this dude, and like literally, like, you can reach over from your cot and touch him. And
in the enclosed space, where the actual
where if you cough, you can feel it on your face from the dude next to you.
But outside by yourself in the middle of a gravel lot,
you had to wear your mask. And then so we were like over there, we're at the smoke pit, and a sergeant major, because we're right next to the brigade. There's a bunch of majors. There's a full bird. At one point, there's a 1-star walking around.
Yeah,
we're just a crazy transportation unit with a bunch of E4s and below, just running around like crazy people. And a sergeant major came over and got onto all the guys in the smoke pit for not wearing masks. And then one of the guys was just like, "You know what? Fuck it." And he just like threw on his mask, and it's crazy to watch, because you see him like pull in, and then he blows out and it just goes. It was awesome.
I kind of want to do that. I don't even smoke anymore.
But I literally just like comes out everywhere, and he's just sitting there just talking to you, and you're just.
I can only imagine just like my eyes burning from all the smoke.
It was hilarious. And then like I don't know, that whole COVID year was the weirdest thing. It was really funny, because when we all got together finally, we all showed each other pictures of our beards that we had before we had to come in.
Yeah. Gone for a year, so you didn't have to shave it.
Literally, we didn't have to drill for like 6 or 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was the best year of the reserve. Until that AT, and that was the worst AT I've ever been on. At one point, we got into the truck. This was the second move we had to do, going to our final spot. Me and my squad leader, we just got into the truck. We just closed the doors and leaned our head back. And we just started laughing so hard. We were in a LMTV. The cab started shaking because we were laughing so hard. That's how bad it was. Like, it was hilarious, because we were like, it can't get any worse. It literally can't get any worse. I still remember when that second spot that got flooded, dude, there was, you see on like Animal Planet where the ants, like in a flood, they like ball together.
Yeah, yes.
And they float.
Form like a little island.
We had those.
Yeah.
It was cool, but at the same time, it was horrifying just watching these ants just float past.
Imagine like walking through and one of them hitting you in the leg.
One of the girls got attacked by a floating ball of ants, and she had to go to the hospital because she's allergic to them.
Well, when you get bit by 1,000 ants all at one time, all balled up,
crazy. It was insane. And then one of the other sergeants was he set up his own little tent behind one of the big tents, and he had no idea it was like flooding. Mm-hmm. Because his tent was like waterproof on the bottom. And dude, I'm surprised he didn't start floating away. He was in there, and the water was almost up to the zipper. We were like, "Dude, are you okay in there?" And he's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And he opened it up.
It was like, this far away.
We were like, "Man, maybe we should pull you out of there." It was so bad. Well, another one of the units, it rained so bad that their LHS had fallen, like slid off the road.
Oh yeah.
And then we were just stuck up there for like.
Which one's the LHS?
That's the one that has the arm that comes back and can pick up a container. And
okay,
back.
Gotcha.
The E2, I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but
big truck with a claw arm.
Yeah, it's the LHS is the 8-wheeled one.
Okay.
And then there's the PLS, which is the 10-wheeled.
Let's say the big one.
Yeah, the big one with the rear axle can actually steer.
And they had the pointy front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hemet is actually what they used to be called, but
yeah.
I don't know. But one of those slid off the road. It was crazy. It was pretty cool. And
oh man, that reminds me of the time they had when we were overseas. I just remembered this. The MRAPs.
Yeah.
And so they're the mine vehicles, and they're built very, very tall. So these guys were driving it, and they went to turn like this 90-degree turn.
Yeah.
And they got the wheels too close to this ditch, right? And since they're so top heavy, I mean, it just kind of stopped, and it was like a cartoon, just kind of on its side.
It was the slowest thing ever.
Yeah. You just watch this giant bomb-resistant vehicle just and these guys get out. They're just like, I don't know what we're gonna do.
Well, shit.
Yeah. Call the Hemet, get the wrecker out, come pick this thing up.
That's funny.
Yeah. It was, dude, just standing there.
There's nothing you can do.
I mean, I don't even remember why I was outside or doing it, but you just see this little thing going down the dirt road. we're like, did they really just do that?
The stupid stuff that happens in the military that makes you laugh, that shouldn't make you laugh, just like little accidents or little things. You're like, yep. Go figure. Yeah, let's just make this day longer.
It's funny, too, because once they picked it up and they got it on the wrecker, they made those two guys put on vests and run behind the Hemet all the way to the yard. So they're just following this vehicle that they dumped.
That's hilarious. We've had... I haven't been a part of too many crazy things, but, dude, so... we were in Alabama. I was riding with probably my 4 closest Army buddies. I still talk to them to this day. One of them's actually in Iraq right now. But we were riding in this Humvee, and it was 555. It was the number of the Humvee. So we always grabbed it. We called it the triple nickel. We now call it the 55 Fly because we were out there in Alabama. We were coming around a corner, going a little fast. The 1-star general in their civilian minivans were going the opposite direction. We come around the corner. They were going really fast. We were going really fast. They were a little bit in the middle of the road, so we kind of come off the edge of the road on the passenger side. And we can't get it back up there. One of my sergeants was driving. He couldn't get back up there. He's like, hold on. We hit this ditch that's on the side of the road, and I hop in it, and it's at like chest level. I'm 5'8", so it's probably 4 foot deep. We hit it with the right side of the vehicle. We nail it going like 35. We pop up. I remember looking out the front windshield, and all I see are treetops at the bottom of the windshield. And like, we nailed that sucker. We all we get done, and we're all just sitting there just like, everybody good?
Am I dead?
Everybody's good. All right, we get out. Somebody else saw it, and they're like, you guys okay? And then they just drove off. We're like, yeah, we're good. And then somehow we got diesel fuel on the roof. There's like jerry cans in the back. Somehow they stayed in the vehicle, which I have no idea, but there was diesel on top of the Humvee. We start driving back. That thing's like shimmying. We bent the rim on it. It was insane. Like that was awesome. But now we call that Humvee 55 Fly because it flew. We're okay. Now I truly believe they are very tough vehicles. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun, but we used it as a training opportunity.
Yeah.
We taught the younger, lower enlisted soldiers how to change a tire. It was terrible.
What to do in the event of a crash.
Yeah. We didn't tell anybody until afterwards. There was also another time we were driving around. This is just stupid stuff in vehicles. We were tasked with just transporting people. We were in a MTV, one of the dual rear axles, the big flat face Stewart and Stevenson. It's a 5-ton truck. We're driving around this whole AT. This is another AT. And we were just transporting people back and forth. And so we got used to like all the roads around. There was this one lone porta potty out in the middle of nowhere. And we were like, we should totally just like clip it one day. We should totally clip it. It's the last day, right? We were literally taking the vehicle to get loaded up on the truck to get sent home. We were going along. I was like, I wasn't driving. I wasn't driving. But we were driving along, and we were just like, we should totally, let's do it. And so my buddy that was driving was just like, am I close enough? Am I close enough? We're going like 25. We're like, yeah, you're pretty close. And he's like, how close? And then nailed it with like 2.5 feet of the bumper. Dude, that porta potty like obliterated, unfolded. The base was still there, which was kind of funny. I thought it would have taken the base. No, it opened it up. It laid it flat on the ground. Like literally the whole top of the porta potty was just like all the walls had come apart and they were just laying flat. And dude, it was the funniest thing. Like,
didn't have blue chunky liquid fly everywhere.
I don't know what happened. It literally like there was nothing. I guess it was just an old porta potty that was dried up. And yeah, me and everybody else in that vehicle. There was 3 of us in there. We laughed so hard we cried. All for like 10 minutes. We were laughing so hard, and it was like the. You will know it's been a long 2 weeks. You're just tired. You're ready to go home, and just the smallest little things will make you laugh so hard for no reason whatsoever.
Especially if you've spent all 2 weeks getting like 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep a night, and you're just delusional by the end of it,
or just doing nothing.
Yeah. Just so bored.
So bored that you just get tired.
So bored you think it's a good idea to ram a porta potty?
Dude, it was awesome. I'm not going to lie. Dude, that's a highlight. That is a super big highlight of my
I will tell my children one day of my time in the Army when I ran over a porta potty.
So, like, literally, I was in the passenger seat, and that's the side he hit it with. And, dude, that all I remember is, like, man, you're getting pretty close. We're moving too fast for him to, like, correct.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're, boo. All I remember is like my entire frame that I could see was just like, it was a blue porta. It was a blue porta, or blue or green one, but it was just like on the windshield. I was like, oh my God. I just died. It was so funny.
That's awesome.
And then nobody said anything about it. And until now, we've told other people.
Somebody showed up that's paid to clean those things, showed up a week later to pump it out. just porta potty pieces everywhere.
Well, that one's gone. Another one's gone.
Why do we keep putting this thing out here?
It was just in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know. Like, there was no footpath. It was just next to a road.
No.
Yeah. And like the door was like halfway open most of the time. So like nobody uses it. So it was so dumb. It was so dumb.
That's hilarious.
It was so great though. But, yeah.
Well, we're a little over 2 hours now.
All right.
And I think we've kind of gotten from childhood to military, and everything's going decent now. You're still in working, and
still in
family man.
5 years to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just the way it is. Yeah. But everything's going great, man. Now E5, you don't have to go to BLC.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about that, but they keep skipping over me I think it's because I'm fat. Even though I've seen some some pretty hefty boys get promoted.
No.
And
do they still have all the point systems and everything?
Dude, I don't even know.
I'd say that might be why he might not have a lot of points.
Dude, I got a shit ton of points. I do. I do actually have, points because I have years of service. I've got, I passed my PT test. I do all the stuff that I'm supposed to do. But that's another thing in the military where you can do everything you're supposed to do and you can still not get advanced.
Yeah, just get screwed.
And just get screwed over or passed over. And I've gotten to the point now where I just don't care about it.
Yeah, like you're not even that interested in looking into.
If I get E5, it'll be cool, but at the same time, I'll be doing the exact same stuff I'm doing now.
Well,
the money is not even worth thinking about if you're looking at the military anyway. The money is not the object. So if I do get it, $20 more a day won't bother me.
Well, I was thinking like retirement at an E5 versus an E4, and then maybe because how many credits do you need to graduate college?
With a bachelor's degree, 120.
120.
If you do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe, not saying you need the degree, but you got 90 already.
Yeah.
Maybe take the last 5, get one more promotion, get the college thing finished just to say that it's done since the Army's paying for it, and then 5 years from now just kind of be like, all right, that's good. That was that point in my life.
Well, now my civilian job is the retirement and the benefits from that. The only thing that keeps me in the military, like I said, was the insurance, but like the retirement from that, it'll help. But
do they offer any promotions through your job? Like if you had a degree, do they require any of that kind of stuff? Or?
No,
I'm not trying to push college on you. It's just one of those where it's like you're like this close.
No, I've the civilian side is actually like you can work your way up. You don't need anything, but if you have experience and years of experience, you can work your way up very easily, and you can get into some very high positions with no college. Like most of the guys that are, I think the guys that are like 4 levels above me, they don't have college.
Gotcha.
So 4 or 5 levels, and some of the guys that are way up there don't have college.
Yeah.
Don't have college. So college is not in. I guess it could be if you're coming in trying to go for those positions, but if you work your way up from within,
not necessary.
Yeah, as long as you know your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was, like I say, just trying to think of a way you can maximize like those last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, whatever. I just ride them out.
Yeah. I'm just riding them out. I'm going to have some fun. Try not to let it bother me too much.
No.
But the experience is what you make it.
Yeah.
And I've had some rough experiences. I've been screwed over. But that's pretty normal. It's the military.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, all right, brother. Well, thank you for doing this with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah, man. I'll try to be a better friend and contact you a little more.
It's whatever.